Hello and welcome back to another Pangolin tutorial. The Lightroom masking tool is one of the most powerful features in the editing suite. Yet, I find that many people are not using the add, subtract and intersect tools to their full potential. In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to take your editing to the next level using some practical examples of how to use these tools. And if you stick around to the end, I will also demonstrate how you can create presets that will literally save you hours of editing time. My name is Sabine and I'm a professional wildlife photographer with Pangolin Photo Safaris here in Botswana. My job is to help our clients get the best shots while on safari and assist them with editing along the way. If you are new to the channel and interested in joining our growing community of wildlife photography enthusiasts, then please remember to subscribe. Before I get started, let me explain why Lightroom's AI masks are so powerful. In addition to the global adjustments that will affect the entire image, masks are designed to target specific areas within an image, such as the subject, the sky or the background, to fine-tune color, lighting, tonality and other characteristics locally. Combined with the refining add, subtract and intersect options within the mask, you can now make complex selections with just a few clicks. Let's start with a few easy examples before we jump into some more complex ones. In this first image taken here in Chobe National Park, I want to make adjustments to the fish eagle as well as the tree. Using select subject, however, only detects the bird. Most people would now go ahead and add in the tree using a brush. But unless you were very good in coloring in as a child, you might find that you often overpaint and then must clean up again. Let me show you a better way that is less time consuming and fiddly. Instead of using a brush to add in the missing part, rather add it with an object mask. You have the option here to do this again with a brush covering the entire area that needs to be added, or use the much quicker way of selecting the area with the rectangle tool and letting Lightroom's AI work its magic. And voila, with one drag, Lightroom perfectly adds the tree to the mask. I can now do any adjustments I like without affecting the background. To show you that this also works on a more complex background, I repeat the same on this image of a male jacana and its chick. Lightroom once again does not detect the little one as part of the subject, so I simply add it in via an object mask. Now, what if Lightroom only detects a part of the subject or area? No problem, you can do exactly the same. Just draw a rectangle around the part you want to add to the mask, and there we go. As a little bonus tip, whenever Lightroom may not detect the subject at all because the background is too similar, use the object mask instead. More than often, this has worked great for me. Okay, now that you know how to easily add to a mask, I will walk you through a few examples of subtracting from a mask. When prompting Lightroom to mask the subject in this image of a leopard taken in the Okavango Delta, it selects part of the background too. Again, you can of course use a brush to subtract and paint in between leopard and tree and between the front legs. But you can also do it the easy way using subtract in combination with a mask of the sky. In this next image of a beautiful half-colored kingfisher, I would like to adjust the exposure of the kingfisher and partially the branch on the left that is in the shade to match it with the brighter one on the right hand side. After choosing a subject mask that selects the kingfisher and the entire branch, I will use an object mask to subtract from the initial selection. Now I can brighten up the left side while keeping the background nice and dark. Because I would like to darken the branch on the right side a bit, I'm going to duplicate and invert this mask now, plus subtract the background so that only the branch is included in the changes I make. Let's do one more subtract example. I don't like the bright area behind the wild dog in this image, and to tone that down, I use a radial mask and lower the exposure. This, however, affects the wild dog too, which means once again I need to make a subtraction from this mask using another subject mask. I can now move the mask around in any way I like, and as you can see, the wild dog will not be darkened. Moving on to the third tool, intersect, within the masking menu. This is probably the least obvious to most, as it is quite hidden in a submenu marked by these 3 dots. Alternatively, it can also be accessed by holding down Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC once you have expanded the mask you are working on. Intersecting 2 masks means that whatever area or areas these 2 masks have in common will be the final mask where the adjustments will take place. Let me walk you through a practical example. I want to add some exposure under the wing of this egret. To do so, I could use a brush and simply paint over the area I want to brighten. On a first glance this looks okay, but let me enable the overlay so you can see how messy I worked spilling over the edges. Instead of spending time fixing this, I will demonstrate a much better approach. First, I create a subject mask, and you can see now that Lightroom's AI did a much better job than me. But since I want to only add exposure on the shady side, I now intersect the subject mask with a brush. Just like before, I can now paint over the area, but watch this. There is no more spilling over the edges, as the brush will only be allowed to take effect where the subject mask is. Let me hover over the different masks now so that you get a better visualization. In the first mask, Lightroom selected the subject. In the second mask, I painted over the area I wanted brighter, and in the process spilled over quite a bit, visible here in the green overlay. But since I used the intersect tool, allowing the brush to only be visible on the subject, the final mask does not show any overspilling. A much cleaner and safer way to paint on the subject. Alright, now that we have gone through the basics, let's look at a few more complex masking selections. What I would like to do in this image of a backlit baboon is enhance the warm colored outline where the sun shines through the fur without affecting the background. Instead of using a brush mask, which again would be messy unless I spend a long time refining it, I will use the select subject mask first, and then intersect this mask with a luminance range mask. The luminance mask will target certain brightness values within an image, and since I want to work on the brightest values only, I select a bright area as a sample with the eyedropper that is immediately available within the luminance mask. I can also use these sliders to choose the brightness values or refine them. Once I'm happy with the chosen area, I can make the adjustments I want. So, by using a subject mask and then intersecting it with a luminance range mask, we managed to mask out the outline of the baboon perfectly. Lightroom does this quick and easy with much more precision than I ever could by using a brush only. Next up is this majestic African Cape buffalo. I already made some basic adjustments to this photograph, and now I want to darken and smooth out the top half of the image behind the buffalo, as well as apply some dodging and burning to the buffalo itself. So let me use a background mask and rename the mask, as we will have quite a few in this example. Seems like Lightroom has some trouble here distinguishing between the background and the buffalo's head. In this instance, it does not bother me though, since I'm anyway only want to work on the top half of the background, and to do that I will intersect the background mask with a linear gradient. Now that I have the area I want to work on selected, I can lower the exposure, decrease texture, as well as dehaze. Next, I want to increase some local contrast in the buffalo using the dodge and burn technique. I choose a subject mask and I'll rename this one to Dodge. This time though, I do need the buffalo's head to be included in the mask, and luckily, as I showed you before, I can do this easily by adding an object mask. Within this mask of the subject, I however only want to target the brightest and darkest areas, because this is what Dodge and Burn stands for. To do exactly that, I will intersect the subject mask with a luminance range mask. Remember that you can either use the eyedropper tool to specify the brightness values, or in this case, I prefer to work with the sliders instead. Moving it over to the right will now choose the brightest areas on the buffalo, and I'm going to feather the selection a little more using the handle underneath. Now I increase exposure, contrast and whites, and switching the mask on and off, you can see the areas that were brightened. Instead of going through the entire process again to burn the darker areas on the buffalo, I simply duplicate the Dodge mask, rename it to Burn, reset the adjustments I had made before, and go back to the luminance range to select the darkest parts. The only thing left to do now is to actually darkening the areas by dragging the exposure slider to the left. And here is the result, before and after. Okay, let's wrap it up with one last example of this majestic elephant bull walking on the Chobe floodplains. Since I exposed for the elephant, the sky looks rather washed out, whereas I am happy with the way the foreground looks. Adding a sky mask also selects part of the elephant, but Subtract Subject will fix this quickly. I often see that people lower the exposure on the entire sky mask like that, but I found that this can create a hard and unnatural contrast between sky and horizon, as well as between sky and animal. For a more natural look, I intersect the sky mask with a linear gradient, letting the effect fade towards the horizon line and subject. In addition, I will add a subject mask and subtract this area via a linear gradient to refine the elephant. Now I increase exposure, contrast, whites and clarity to make the elephant stand out a little better. And as promised in the beginning, I will demonstrate now how you can create a preset using these AI masks and apply them to multiple images at a time. Simply head to Presets and hit Create Preset. Give it a name and make sure to check all the adjustments that you want to apply on the other images, including masking. Now to apply the presets to multiple images, head to the Library mode, select the images and use the Quick Develop panel on the right to find the saved preset. The AI masks will now be calculated for each image individually. So even if the framing of the subject and sky differ from image to image, Lightroom has recalculated the masks and adjusted them accordingly. A real time saver. Alternatively, you could also sync these settings within the develop mode if you do not want to create a preset. So this will save you plenty of editing time. I hope these examples helped you understand Lightroom's masking tools better and that you can confidently use them from now on. If you found this tutorial helpful, please remember to hit the like button, and if you would like to join me on Safari, then follow the link in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time.